Okay, I understand from yesterday that perhaps it would be useful to go through the structure versus agency. Remembering this is the first part on your leaflet, so it's a small section, but it's very important to understand what is to come in terms of perspectives in sociology. So we started with the idea that society makes us human, looking at feral children, looking at the nature and nurture argument, and it's how society interacts or how society works, which is the main topic of study for sociologists. So when we talk about society, we'll break it down like this. The way of life, the culture of a society, so British culture, describes those within the geographical bounds of our country, so Britain, and a shared culture. So that describes our society. Culture is made up of norms, values, status, and role, and a few other things that I will go on to mention. But norms are the expected modes of behaviour. So how we're expected to behave. It is said we're a polite and very modest society. We are quite restrained. Our values are represented in the way in which we interact in this way. So classic example is Brits like to queue. The value is politeness, and the norm that comes from that value is queuing and turn taking. People have argued that this is true for our democratic society, that we are fair-minded, we value fairness, and so equality before the law. These kind of things are also values, but it informs how we are, and to some extent, a function of this is how we represent ourselves in language, etc. So status, that's, if you like, the rank we are in society. So doctors are a high status position in our society because they have not only much training, but they also have pay to suggest they are of a high status. Role, so the fatherhood role, the motherhood role, various roles that we have in society are made up of norms in terms of how we are expected to behave and how we are expected to be. This describes culture. So the way the individual integrates into society is having an understanding of our culture. In order for this to happen, that the culture is learnt through a process of socialization. Socialization is what's occurred that teaches us culture. And socialization takes place through social institutions such as the family, the mass media, education, criminal justice system, political system, and so on. So the family teaches us right from wrong. But the family teaches us the roles and role models. The family teaches us gender roles and so on. The mass media, if you think of EastEnders, reinforces the norms and values of our society by repetition. Education system, a more formalized way of learning right and wrong, a more standardized way. Some sociologists argue it prepares us for the world of work. Criminal justice system, so when our norms are broken in a severe way, or what is seen as a severe way, the criminal justice system will be involved to give societal sanction for this transgression. The political system, we live in a liberal democracy, so that the idea of voting, competition, fair play, fair say, freedom of speech, all work within that to represent in our social institution, our cultural values, and to reinforce and maintain those cultural values. Now, to this point, all sociologists agree. This is how they see society. The divergence comes on a scale from structure to agency. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of seeing this as a scale rather than two distinct and separate groupings. So some sociologists, some groups of sociologists see this thing called culture as relatively rigid, as relatively universal. That is, it is the same wherever that culture occurs, or it is fundamentally the same, it would be a way of putting it. And that whether you live in John O'Groats or Land's End, you're subject to the same conforming, restraining forms of culture in which we are socialized into. We are done to, rather than doing the doing, if that makes sense. We are subject to culture. We are produced by culture in this way. Agency does not deny the importance of culture in this way. It varies from structure, and I think again this is a gradation, it's not an absolute, in that it moves further and further away from the idea that we are done to, we are created by, we are a product of our society. It accepts that norms, values, statuses, and roles are present and very influential. But the key thing it says that is different is these norms, values, status, and role are negotiated or reinterpreted according to the social situation in which these happen. So when groups of people come together, they have this kind of like in a back room or a stock of a shop, got this range of options to choose from, but it is in the social interaction you choose which to deploy and how to interpret it. For instance, I am a father. I am very aware of what should be the good thing to do as a father. I am very aware of the model that my own father and other fathers have. However, I feel I interpret the role, as it were, to do with my own personal experience, how I meet others, and my own free will. So agency would suggest that we have more in ourselves to do. Now, I hope this has been useful. If you can look up some references for structure and agency, and perhaps email them, or we'll have a brief discussion on those. And then perhaps you could go ahead and start writing this piece. Okay, thank you very much.